Hello there, you awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage to truth and freedom. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll be there for about 10-15 minutes. Then we will be exclusively available on free speech, or as some are calling it now, Freech platform, Rumble, where you can freely talk about stories like NATO censoring anti-NATO rhetoric on social media. Who benefits from that? Please don't criticize NATO. That's a hate crime. Also, we're going to be talking about RFK Jr.'s claims about Anthony Fauci, which literally can't be discussed on YouTube, as well as talking at some length about the 4.5 million people who died in the post 9/11 conflicts, and let's think about how that was framed when it happened. But to ensure that we remain somewhat frivolous, my on-screen assistant and I, we're going to bring you a story where a British regional news reporter for the BBC, which Elon Musk would say is what, state media, Elon Musk would call that. Right. State media, according to Elon Musk. Have you seen that guy, Boogie? Watch her. She ends the news with the phrase, good boy, which I don't know. Does the news end with good boy?
Well, it would if it was in your world.
Yes, it would. Good boy. You are a very good boy, aren't you? Yes, well, I think so. I don't know. Oh, God, is this good? Let's have a look.
Tonight, Look North is back in BBC Breakfast from 6:25. Good boy.
Who's that aimed at? What does she do afterwards? Does she react? Does she sort of acknowledge that that was a weird thing to do? Nope, she just looks down at the pen, carries on. Look North.
I would have loved to see the reaction of you watching that real time. On your own, in your bedroom.
If I watched that on my own bedroom, she went, good boy, I'd be writing a fan letter straight away. Dear news lady, you're the only one who understands me and what I need to feel okay. Also, sorry to hear about that massacre in Lincoln. Hey, look at this. If you need to smuggle drugs, and you don't because drugs are bad... Allegedly. No, actually they are bad, aren't they? They actually are bad, aren't they? Why not try dressing up your cat as a baby? Look at this headline. Woman dressed cat up as baby in attempt to smuggle drugs into resort. She dressed the cat up...
Attempt? I mean, she didn't even get away with it. She went to all that trouble. Look at that little cat.
That is an adorable little guy, isn't it? It looks quite passive, and I don't know, is it actually, if you look right into the eyes of the cat, you can see it's a bit pissed off.
Right. It's annoyed that this is happening. Although some animals don't seem to matter, do they? They don't seem to mind.
What, dressing up in clothes?
Yeah, they don't seem to mind.
I think they've been in some way chemically neutered.
Right, I see.
Those animals, because that's a robbing their dignity, isn't it? To sort of, like, I've got children, my children want to dress all my animals up. We put a bow in Bear's hair once. That wasn't the right thing to do.
How did he feel about that?
He was actually,
yeah,
he was all right.
He was all right.
He was all right about it. He didn't know, though.
No.
I think if I could show him that it was compromising him, he wouldn't have.
The thing about this is that already, like, she's, like, they're suggesting that if she'd have done it with a real baby, that she might have got away with it. But it was the fact that they discovered, first of all, hang on, that's not a baby, it's a cat.
Okay, let's just check what's going on here. Wait a minute, that's not a baby, it's a cat. And what's in its pockets? Drugs? What the hell is this now? Oh, sorry, the cat's addicted to drugs. That's what's made it think it's a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, carry on then. It all makes sense now. You're right. What drugs do you imagine it was? What the drugs are?
I'm going to say cocaine.
Potential drugs? No, you've missed an opportunity for a joke, and here are all the jokes.
Oh, right.
Ketamine.
Nice.
That's a potential one. Meow meow, which is a slang term for drugs. Catnip, another drug.
Okay, but that isn't... Yeah, that's
not
just
news.
No.
It's probably heroin. Oh, catnip's
my
not
mum
a drug.
does that.
Oh,
God.
Aha. Does she dress her cat up as a baby? Did she dress you up as a cat? Oh. Do you see? This is a bit like in Fight Club when he learns, wait a minute, I'm on my own in this Fight Club. It's only me I'm sitting in first rule. Yeah, why are you telling me for? I am you. Oh, well, you already know, so, you know, the stuff about don't talk about it. Yep, I know that. I am me. Okay. A speeding driver has found an ingenious way to foil a arrest. So he's pretending that his dog drove the car. That's worse than speeding.
Yeah.
Sir, can I tell? I'd like to notify you that you were travelling at 35 miles an hour, and this is a 30-mile-an-hour area. Well, actually, talk to my dog. He was actually driving. Well, you are actually legally culpable for a much worse crime.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and what's that baby doing in the back of the vehicle? Meow! What kind of family are you living in? Sylvanian families, only from Tommy. Yeah. Nice. You'll get that if you're British. If you're not, You might not, and you might even now be frantically demanding a refund. Where's my free speech? Where's my conspiracy theories? Where's information that will reveal to me that the establishment is corrupt, that we've been lied to, that the mainstream media are corroborating and supporting lies, as in the Russiagate case, then still trying to claim some moral high ground? Where is some analysis of succession that shows me, in spite of its ingenuity, it still functions as a kind of neoliberal propaganda that suggests there is a bifurcation down the centre of American politics where there's goodies on one side and baddies on the other, when in fact the establishment is stinking corrupt, needs to be brought down from within? All those things are coming up. But first, here's my dog getting a parking ticket.
Get in the car. Come on. Do you want a ticket?
You want a ticket?
Do you? Do you want a ticket? Get in that car. Bear, get in that car. Oh, we're going to give you a ticket, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, we get a ticket.
Like, is that the traffic guy understood the whip pan.
Oh,
he knew
okay.
that that was the time
This
to
is
say...
my moment.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the rest of the time he is a traffic warden and he gave my wife a ticket the previous day.
Did he?
Yeah.
But you forgave him for that.
I didn't even... I'm
Well
on his
done.
side.
Oh, she's a menace, is she?
I believe that she needs to be curtailed through administrative measures.
Yeah. Did she try and blame Bear as well?
Well,
or-
when she saw that video, she went, he gave me a ticket yesterday.
Wow.
I go, no, he's all right. I could tell he had beautiful... He has innocence in
You
his
can
heart.
tell. Yeah.
He's a lovely man. He's a real traffic warden. If we can look into one another's eyes in good faith and love, we can change anything. Even a man that's about to
What
give
if he'd given you a ticket?
I wouldn't have liked that. I'd have brought him down from within. I'd have lied about him on the form. He tried to give a ticket to a dog. A dog's not a vehicle, is it? A dog, at most, at best, it's a drug mule if you dress it as a toddler. As a hairy boy. It's my hairy child. Don't look in his pockets or his bottom. I shouldn't have to tell you that. You're not even a customs officer. You're meant to be selling sweets. What kind of shop is this? Sylvanian families, only from Tommy.
In that car. Get in that car. You. Come on. Oh, dear. Otherwise, it's a ticket. Will you sit down again? Get in that car. Thanks.
How manipulative he is.
If you've just tuned in, we're talking about animal facts.
Also, though, NATO have been censoring, social media sites are censoring criticism of NATO. So, look, we are going to talk about serious stuff. Also, Biden is selling weapons to the majority of the world's autocracies. So, NATO censorship. Now the army wants social media surveillance to protect the NATO brand. NATO ain't a brand, is it? Is it?
Well, I don't know.
Don't
It
speak
depends.
ill of NATO. Well, I like them people. I think, oh my God, I think this was Trump. Trump went, what have we even got a NATO for? Shut it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was Michael Schellenberger when he came on here said like that when Trump said stuff like that, it was like groundbreaking.
Yes.
That he is a berserker. And again, recent revelations, I'm speaking particularly of the Russiagate ones, make me feel like that all of the condemnation, and even like for people that I actually respect, like Jon Stewart, saying no, Trump is a definite baddie, and there are obvious stories in the news at the moment that are pretty difficult to decry when morally indicting Trump, shall we say. But in a climate where there's been cohesive, collaborative efforts between the mainstream media, funded by the Democrat Party, perpetrated by the FBI, that were known to be untrue from the get-go, as our recent story on that subject demonstrates. If you've not seen that yet, it's probably up on Rumble now.
It is.
It's up on Rumble now. Have a look at that. It's an amazing story. It just makes you like, if there's no trust in any institutions, judicial, electoral, who's got the moral authority now? Who do you actually trust? Is it someone like, it's only really dead people, like, I don't know, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela? I don't know who we turn to for any kind of moral authority. Who do you turn to? Let me know in the chat and the comments.
This is another one of those kind of not a million miles off the Twitter files kind of revelations. So this story is the US Army Cyber Command, you don't have to know what that is, told defense contractors, so there's a meeting behind closed doors between the US Army and the defense contractors. Already you would think, why is that happening?
Why is that happening?
It planned to surveil global social media used to defend the NATO brand. This is a recording that the Intercept got hold of. The remarks came during a closed-door conference hosted by the Cyber Fusion Innovation Center, a Pentagon-sponsored non-profit that helps with military tech procurement. The mass social media surveillance appears to be just one component of a broader initiative to use private sector data mining to advance the Army information's warfare efforts. So this is a way in which the army is using, as it says here, private sector data mining in much the same way the Twitter files revealed that private big tech companies were being lent on by the government to basically do the job of defense contractors in terms of helping them out, making sure that the NATO brand doesn't suffer and therefore wars perpetuate and military equipment keeps on getting bought. It's such an insidious world happening behind closed doors that the army, the defense contractors, the big tech companies are all in it together to kind of create this world where we just need to keep buying weapons. It's pretty bad. Right.
I think also that when you find out that criticism of NATO is being censored on social media, and you think, oh, why is that happening? And then you can trace it back to because they need NATO's integrity to be unblemished in order to continue to legitimize weapons. When you find that out, you, oh God, it's exactly as I've always believed it to be. And when you find out now that 4.5 million people were killed in the post 9/11 conflicts, it makes you further query the legitimacy of foreign wars underwritten by either righteousness, war against terror, humanitarian motives. How much longer can we continue to legitimize the narratives advanced by an establishment that has again and again revealed what motivates it?
This is a new report and it's called Death Outlives War, and I guess it's one of those things that we don't think about very often, about the way in which actually more deaths happen, more people, especially children and the impoverished and marginalized populations, have been killed by the effects of war rather than the war themselves. So they were saying, like, 1 million people killed by war, but another 3.5 million people killed by the effects of war. So you're talking malnutrition, displacement, people becoming refugees, all these things that when it comes down to, oh, this many Russians or this many Ukrainians have died, it's not about that. It's about what's the long-term effects of these wars happening.
There's an ongoing migrant crisis, as it's described, in Europe, where people feel like migration is beyond the capacity of already entrenched domestic populations, like that people can't take no more migration. It's like obviously a complex issue that goes to the heart of many cultural war issues, and indeed the idea of compassion in politics. But that issue is not separate from these profitable, illegitimate wars brought about again by the same establishment that now continues to condemn ordinary working people for their bigotry or their vaccine hesitancy, or a whole host of ways of doing what the establishment has always done, speaking of ordinary people in condescending and condemnatory terms and tones. So yeah, it's when you look at how these things evolve over time, it's pretty plain that they are willing to use whatever method is necessary to legitimize whatever actions they want to take, and when it comes to dealing with the consequences, they find ways of kind of, what do I want to say, gerrymandering and manipulating those consequences away from them.
And what links these two things, military-industrial complex, the federal government has spent $8 trillion on these wars, and we know that half of that, or at least half of that, goes to military-industrial complex. So it's appalling.
The deeper issue here, and what that we've been talking about, is does deep state power, in collaboration with globalist interests, bypass the power of ordinary democracy? And increasingly it's becoming clear that the answer to that is yes. Let me know in the chat now if you saw our conversation with RFK. Join us on Locals. There's a red button on your screen. You can join us pretty easily. We're talking to Annie Mashan later in the show, a former member of MI5, who's going to help us to unpack the CIA and FBI and just how corrupt they are. We're going to look at the worst things the CIA has allegedly done. In some cases, you have to say allegedly because it's really leery stuff, and the worst things that the FBI have done and continue to do, right up to the current news story about Russiagate and their collaboration with the Democratic Party and the mainstream media in creating lies around Donald Trump, who, even if you hate Donald Trump, it would be better, wouldn't it, if there wasn't this just ongoing conveyor belt of stories where the establishment has lied and manipulated and used the judiciary and the electoral system and the deep state in order, if Donald Trump is so bad, then let's just let Donald Trump's badness deal with itself rather than this ongoing campaign of deception and malevolence. Let me know in the chat where you stand on that issue. Okay, time now for a new item where I analyse events in the news. I don't know what it's going to be called, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but a graphic has been created. Let's have a look. It's confusing because I suppose, like, again, it's the number of elements. One day I'm going to interview Jack about his influences.
Right.
It's going to be a long conversation.
I normally stick up for him, but I think we've reached the point.
I think the main influences are going to be drugs. I think he'll be having that conversation about his influence with a cat dressed up as a little boy sat on his lap with chemicals leaking from every orifice. And now we're going to analyse Succession. Everyone's talking about Succession. Some people saying it's a modern day Shakespeare because it deals with ideas like legacy, power, rivalry within a family, what happens in the power vacuum left after the death of a tyrant, but instead of it being set in like Jacobean England, it's of course set in contemporary America with the Roy family, a very obvious stand-in for the Murdoch family, ATN being Fox News, and characters like Mencken being sort of de facto Trumps, like Donald Trump. So let's have a look at, this is a preview for episode 8, so we can sort of get into some of the things that we've discussed. Oh, there will be spoilers in this. If you're like a person that's trying to avoid spoilers, we're gonna spoil it. Have a look.
Information. It's like a bottle of fine wine. You save it for a special occasion, and then you smash someone's face in with it.
This could be.
Once heard from someone that Rupert Murdoch actually does only care about information.
Right.
If you talk to Rupert Murdoch, he don't want to hear anything. He just like, oh, what's going on? Right. He doesn't want. Like if you start going, do you know actually, Rupert? It reminds me. Like, no, listen, that's what
You've misunderstood.
That's in opinion. What you've gone into there. He just wants information. And I once also heard that he's like Mephistopheles, that he sort of acts like he's never going to die, and like he just like even if he doesn't get what he wants, he knows that in time it will come. So that little line about information and weaponizing information from Tom Whamgam. Is that his name? Like, that's good. Everyone, do you know? Everyone's watching Succession. Everyone you know watches Succession. Don't they?
Yeah.
So like, probably we know a lot of people that work in media. Probably we know a lot of people that live in cities. But one of the things I want to bring to the forefront is it is accepting the framing of contemporary political debate, i.e. the Republican Party under the perhaps that's been taken hostage by this character Mencken, who's not a character they spend a lot of real estate on in this season, but the previous seasons they sort of set him up as a demagogic figure. He's sort of obviously a stand-in for Trump. And the Democrat Party, I don't think it focuses enough, for my tastes, on the what I would call ubiquitous corruption between both parties. It gives you the idea that were the Democrats to win this election, because this particular episode is set on election night, were the Democrats to win, everything would be peachy creamy. But when you look at stuff like Russiagate, when you look at military-industrial complex, when you look at Joe Biden saying nothing will change, when you look at the pledges that were made in, when you look at the ongoing wars, the way the wars are funded, that kind of framing doesn't make, like the whole framing that was prevailed around the Trump presidency, for me is like the framing at the beginning of COVID, no longer relevant. You can't use those arguments anymore. You can't say, like, and remember, I'm not saying that Trump is anything, I've got no strong view on Trump. I'm not a pro-Trump person. I know loads of you lot love him. But you can't continue to say, like, we have to make sure Trump doesn't get in. We have to make sure that Biden gets in. Like as if there are clear lines between good and evil. Sure. Because it's plain that the system itself, the deep state, globalist corporate interests are able to prevail regardless of who's in power.
It's interesting, a story we didn't get to before, but it was about weapons sales and Biden selling weapons to the majority of the world's autocracies. His weapon sales have gone up under Biden than Trump. So when Biden came in, he was like, you talked about a battle between democracies and autocracies. That was the rhetoric. But actually, weapons sales to those autocracies has gone up.
Thank God Biden beat Trump. Now we can sell more weapons to authorities. Phew, we got that deal with. It's so much better. It's like again, I like this, and there is that headline. The show kind of accepts the framing of what I would call the neoliberal establishment, which fetishizes what it believes to be the small differences between itself and the sort of libertarian right, and celebrates and revels in those differences. Like, oh, look, we're better than you in this area. But what about these selling weapons to the majority of the world's... Right, it's not... We don't sell weapons to all of the world's autocracies. Is it the majority? Yes, it's the majority of the world's autocracies.
Interesting, because there was this moment one day, it felt like, in terms of our world and the way that we see it, and as you say, kind of what the Democrat Party get up to as well as the Republicans, that the more authentic view was Roman's in the room when he was like, doesn't matter who gets into power. That felt like the more genuine version.
Yeah.
And also the more, in terms of in keeping with, this is a media organisation that exists to make money. That felt like I could imagine that. But maybe Rupert Murdoch isn't like that. I've no idea. Maybe he is, in terms of like the comparisons between Brian Cox's character and Rupert Murdoch. Stuff around Tucker and at the moment that we're kind of understanding is that maybe Rupert Murdoch does have a world view. I don't know.
I feel like I like Roman Roy, the younger son's perspective. I feel like he's a nihilistic individual that don't care. It's a TV show. It's a TV show. There is no meaning. Like the character of Kendall, conflicted idealist, trying to fill his father's shoes ineffectually. Shiv trying to become a different kind of a different expression of power, but in my view, ultimately as corrupt. I mean, it's definitely like a really brilliant television program. Brilliant, because you can talk about it even in these terms. But what I do query is it's sort of the presumption that there's a meaningful difference between the two parties.
There were the moments, again, spoilers, but in last night's show or this week's show, where they were talking about if Meghan gets in and how awful things would be, and that was the first time I thought this feels a bit reductive, and I've never said that about Succession ever.
Yeah, because it is ultimately, I suppose, let us know in the chat in the comments if you agree, a satire on Fox, Trump, and the relationship between the media and power. And it's beautifully satirized. And perhaps it's unfair to offer this kind of criticism because perhaps you have to have certain lines between good and evil.
For drama.
For the purposes of drama. If you go like, hold on a minute, both of these parties are corrupt, then there would be no dramatic tension in that episode. Yeah, fair enough.
The most important election in our lifetime.
I feel sick.
Oh, why? It's fun. It's only spicy because if my team wins, they're gonna shoot your team.
Give me some sugar, man. Maybe everyone voted for me. We don't know.
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat, Tom. This is crazy.
We all want to stop Madsen, right?
Every vote must be counted. This is about the future of the country.
False flag.
The character of Con, he's like sort of good value with his sort of narcissistic pursuit of power that he doesn't actually really care about at all. He was really easily persuaded that he'd like to. When they goes, would you like to be ambassador? He was offered a role of ambassador in order to step down. In the previous episode, they go, well, would you like a man or something? He goes, seems a bit car bomby. Are we going to be in a compound? Is it above ground? I like that, and I suppose it's one of those things that feels true. It's a bit like The Crown in a way. Even in areas where you feel, and the royal family strongly protest that it is inaccurate, and we recognise that drama is about distillation and concentration and indeed exaggeration and amplification. That's the point of theatre, to distill and present symbols and narratives that through clarity are able to sort of stimulate a kind of recognition of broader and deeper themes. If it was like, things that are ultra true are sort of boring and have to include long passages of meaninglessness.
But that moment with Con, there's moments with him where you think, surely like a wannabe president or politician wouldn't behave like that. But like career politicians, we know it. I mean, what is lobbying? What is these politicians who take millions and millions from big pharma, for example? If you were like an honest politician who wanted to do their job and represent people, you wouldn't take millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry. You just wouldn't. You'd be like your principles. So when you see like a representation of politics in that form, it's not. I mean, he plays it quite comedically in a way, but it's not actually that funny in reality.
No. I like the character of Madsen. I think he is a brilliant hybrid of Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, and sort of captures the geek glamour of these powerful new barons and magnates. And I suppose based on what I observe to be the relationship between this show and the reality that it's satirizing, I would have to guess that Madsen will come out on top
in the end.
Because it seems that one of the tensions we're experiencing, particularly according to the analysis of the influential Martin Gurry, whose book The Revolt of the Public informs many of the opinions shared certainly by me on this show, is that what we're witnessing is the end of old elites and the emergence of new elites, the inability of establishment power to recognize that the game that they've been playing has now changed. They don't understand the lexicon, nomenclature, or dynamics of emergent technology and its ability to influence power. And indeed, the broader themes that we talk about continually on this show of centralized authority and the rise of authoritarianism, apparently on the left, through censorship, legitimization of surveillance, lockdowns, and the way that they were perhaps stuck to beyond their facility, the moralization and imposition of certain medicines, the exaggeration of their positive impact, all point to ways to legitimize authority. We're only like, all authoritarianism says that it's doing the right thing, though. You know, whether that's the monstrous dictators of the 20th century, they were not like, and now a genocide. It was like, we've got to do this stuff because X, Y, Z, mythology, this, Wagner, that, trains run on time, the other. You know, like, so when it, and of course I'm not making comparisons, I'm just saying that authoritarianism doesn't overtly tell you that it's wrong. You have to believe in the legitimacy of your own power. And so I feel like, based on that, this is my guess of what will happen. Shiv will win. I feel that that like will be just because she's on a down note at the moment.
There's going to be
has to be an ascent, possibly, and will become reconciled with Tom, and that Mattson will be empowered and the deal will go through, so that we get the idea that, oh no, even though this old power dynamic of these corrupt Murdoch-like individuals has been broken down, it's been replaced by a similarly corrupt...
Who's the real successor?
Yeah, right. Succession is a new...
not necessarily the family. It's the new power.
Because from a TV perspective, I've often wanted it to be Greg.
Of course, it'd be
like
amazing.
A hapless, sort of goonish guy.
The moment at the start of that episode where Tom was like talking about how nervous he was and what awful day he's got planned, and then Greg just goes, oh, I'm having quite a nice day. So brilliant.
Yeah, he's really sweet.
That's where, like, Succession for me, like how, you know, we were talking about like the one moment of maybe it being a touch reductive for drama's sake, but the way in which this stuff with Mattson and Gojo and its kind of commentary about big tech maybe taking over, and like the way in which they talk about Brian Cox's character being able to affect elections, the ability for big tech to now do that. You know, literally there was a article this week about how big tech are now more richer and more powerful than most countries, and it's amazing the way in which that's going and the way in which Succession kind of deals with that. It's really impressive.
In a way, because we have accepted taxonomies of power that relate to previous dynamics, like a nation is a powerful thing, or even corporations are powerful things, we are unable to even mentally envisage what new power actually looks like. I also like the bit where Greg goes, I drank things that maybe aren't drinks. I drank things that aren't drinks. I was dancing with an old man. It's particularly good, I think, because of Jesse Armstrong's DNA. It providing brilliantly nuanced and comedic dialogue, which separates it from shows that are of a comparable aesthetic but perhaps take themselves more seriously. For me, the comedy is something
because he talks about, even goes further with the old man, doesn't he? The old man, he says like he was nervous or something, he was uncomfortable. I didn't need that detail.
He's a really good actor, that bloke. They're all brilliant, aren't they?
Amazing.
So, yeah, it's a sort of a fantastic show. But let us know what you think in the chat and the comments about that show. Is it an accurate appraisal of the way that power operates? If you're a person that really believes, for example, in the Republican Party and love Donald Trump, do you sort of feel like, good, Mencken's won. You like, do you sort of, does it sort of play out that way in your in accordance with your own beliefs and faith? I want to talk to you about some stuff that's pretty serious, as a matter of fact, that I definitely would not be able to talk about on YouTube. When we spoke to RFK the other day, he made some claims about Anthony Fauci and gain of function research, and in particular, like, you cut me off at the point where what I'm saying gets too risky, right? RFK said that Anthony Fauci was doing gain-of-function research in this country. It got shut down by the Obama administration, should be safe so far. It got reinitiated by the Trump administration, should still be okay. Then he repoed it, because he's like, oh, we can't do this in America, to a certain town in China that you may have heard of that sounds a bit like a hip-hop collective whose name ends in clan. Yeah, let's have a look now at RFK. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description to take you over to Rumble. Have a look at this.